Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Magnus and today we're going to talk about implied rules, and this is something that one of the subscribers did ask me about, so let's do it. So implied rules, what is it and how can you find it? Well, there is an SK 115600, and this is showing you how to find the implied rules, and I will show you as well. So if you open the Smart Console, then you have action and you have implied rules. So implied rules is divided up in a few different topics. So you have, if you click here, then you have the first rule, and you see there's a bunch of rules here and you cannot really change them. You can log them and so on, but implied rules, they are what Checkpoint is needing to be able to run their software, so to say. It can be like a rule that says the management server is allowed to push policy to the gateway. It can be a rule saying that the gateway itself is allowed to send logs to the management server. Of course, you can create all this manually, but Checkpoint has done a predefined set of rules for the Checkpoint functionalities to work. So you see, here you have the first rules, then you have a before last, and we will come to this later, and then you have last rules. You can do some configuration changes. You can go into configuration, and then you can turn off stuff. Or you can, for example, log the traffic. Because if you see here, tracking, meaning the logging option, is turned off. If you want to log all the implied rules, then you need to change in the configuration to log implied rules. And then you may be wondering, how is this actually working? Like, what is the rule order and so on? Well, there is an administrative guide on how the rule base is actually working. I will link this in the description below, but I would recommend you to read through this. So, what type of rules are there in the rule base? Well, there are three types of rules. There are the explicit, implied, and implicit. So, what is explicit, implied, and implicit? Well, the explicit rules, they are the ones that you configure yourself. It's these ones. These are the explicit rules. You are creating them. You are making them explicit for yourself. Then you have implied rules, and that's the one I did show you. That's the one to, well, here you say, install the security policy on a gateway. So you need to, they are needed, but you can either do them manually or you can do it, just leave it per default. I would leave it per default. And then there are an implicit cleanup rule, and that means there is a catch-all, and a catch-all is more or less drop the traffic, and the implicit rule does not show up in the rule base. So how is the rules actually enforced? Well, the rule order is the following. First, you have the implied rules. That's the Checkpoint predefined rules to make the things work. Then you have the explicit rules. That's the one that you create yourself for your rule base for the company. Then you have a before last implied rules. That's applied before the last explicit rule. So this line number 3, it's a rule that is actually enforced before this. So let's check what type of rule that is. So you go to action, implied rules, and then you see before last. Well, then it's the local machine to any except. And that means from the firewall itself to anything else, it's open. That's the before last rule. And then you have the last explicit rule. And the recommendation from Checkpoint is to do a cleanup rule. And cleanup rule is more or less an catch-all rule, so you have it in the log base. So if you use a cleanup rule as the last explicit rule, the last implied and the implicit cleanup rule are not enforced. So if you do this cleanup rule, then these two are not in use, they are not valid. And what is a cleanup rule? Well, a cleanup rule is like this. It's something that catch all traffic, any, and drop the traffic, and I strongly recommend you to log the traffic. But I would do like this. I will add a rule above, and then I will have a cleanup no log. And you may ask why? Well, that's because you don't want like NetBIOS and so on to spam your log, so you can filter out NBT. If you filter out NBT like this, then you have a lot nicer logs. You get rid of a lot of crap, more or less. There's actually one type of rules left, and that's something called a stealth rule. And a stealth rule is this one. So when you have made all your management rules for how you connect to your firewall, how you connect to your security gateway, then you should add a rule below that to drop all the traffic to your gateway, to protect your gateway. So this is so you don't accidentally make a rule below to give access to your gateway. So the stealth rule and cleanup rules is something that you should do explicitly in your rule base to have a good and secure rule base for your Checkpoint gateways. And this was it for this video. I hope you did like it and learn something from it. If you feel like you get value from this series, please comment below and maybe consider to subscribe and share and like and the bell notification and all that YouTube stuff. And hopefully I see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.